I told you months ago that Donald Trump was preparing to censor the internet for political gain. And it's going to happen, or at least he's going to try. And I'm going to tell you about it. But let's think back to the foundation of all of this. The foundation of all of this actually goes to, quote, fake news. Fake news and talking about journalism licenses, as Donald Trump has done, and talking about shutting down certain media outlets, and talking about how social media is just all left wing and they've really got to do something about it. I told you from the beginning it was all a pretext to eventually try to clamp down on internet speech politically, along political lines. And then a couple of months ago, Trump had, maybe it was a month ago, Trump had this just comically laughable social media summit at the White House. And of course, no left-wingers were invited. I pointed this out at the time. And of course, the entire pretext of the social media summit was that, oh, the right is being censored online and it's all so unfair. None of it is true, of course. And now Politico has learned over the weekend that there are drafts going around of an executive order by Donald Trump, which would be a truly authoritarian nightmare, the likes of which I don't believe we've ever seen before in the modern sort of internet news era. What we know so far is a draft of the order exists. It would allow the administration to fight back against what they say are liberal cesspools on social media. And it is believed that there would be penalties for a social media company that, quote, censors political viewpoints. And this is, I can't, it's almost impossible to explain the severity of what is going on. Now, no one yet has gone on record about what the penalties would be to social media platforms, but this is truly a free speech horror. Let me explain to you why it's so dangerous. Twitter has policies, for example, against bullying trans people by misgendering them. As just one example, the left believes this is simply an issue of treating people correctly. It's an issue of internet bullying, period. It's not a political issue in the same way that we'd not argue today that a policy against calling black people the N-word is not a political issue. Most of us, I know that there are some out and out racists who would disagree, but in 2019, most people understand a policy on a social media platform against targeting black people with the N-word is not a political policy. It's just we treat people in a respectful way, in the way that they should be treated. That is the view of Twitter when it comes to deliberately misgendering people to the point of it being bullying. The right believes and has said that merely having a policy around bullying that includes how you gender people on the internet is a left-wing bias. So this gets us back to Donald Trump's potential internet censorship policy. A policy like what Donald Trump is proposing would supposedly prescribe punishments for limiting political speech. And they would argue that a policy against anti-trans speech, including deliberately misgendering people in a way that is bullying, is politically biased action by Twitter. They would argue that Twitter, by not allowing incessant misgendering to the point of bullying, Twitter is silencing a political viewpoint, which I guess is the political viewpoint that it's fine to misgender trans people deliberately to the point of bullying. Can you see how dangerous this is? This is an incoming fascistic restriction on speech from those who claim, remember, that they're all about speech. They don't want to limit speech. And we can actually simplify a ton of what's underlying this. Trump doesn't like people saying things about him on the internet. And he wants to find a way to either make it illegal or to make it punishable by fines or some kind of other penalty. Of course, there are a lot of right-wingers who have other priorities here, and they happen to line up with Donald Trump. They believe social media is all left-wing. All that stuff, they do believe it. But it's super easy to get Trump on board by telling him, Mr. President, you can punish the companies that are allowing all of these mean things to be said about you. These are private companies. Conservatives supposedly are all for private companies making their rules and functioning with as little regulation as possible. Why don't conservatives just leave these platforms, start their own, sort of like a gay couple finding a different baker to bake them a cake? The truth is it's a lie. They don't really like private business and a marketplace of ideas if the ideas of the business or the marketplace aren't the ones that they like. If anything, Twitter is going easy on things that violate their terms and conditions, because if Twitter actually enforced the terms and conditions on Donald Trump's Twitter account, he would have been banned by now. Trump regularly bullies people on Twitter. Trump regularly threatens violence on Twitter. The one sort of glimmer of hope here, because this executive order, from what we know so far, looks truly horrifying, the one glimmer of hope is that courts strike this down. But remember that increasingly Trump controls the courts. Trump has 2 Supreme Court justices that he has selected. I believe Trump has now selected 25% of, it may be district and appellate courts. We did the story last week and I forget the numbers. But the point is, Trump is increasingly controlling. Every month, Trump has more control over the court system that would ultimately adjudicate whether this incoming executive order is even legal. So we've got to get him out now, which really means November of 2020. I don't know any other way around it. It must be done, because this now is starting to become a true authoritarian nightmare, even for things as simple as just speech on the internet. As soon as I have more details about the executive order draft, I will absolutely get them to you. Make sure you're following The David Pakman Show on Instagram at David Pakman Show. I did post a few hours ago a tomato update, my tomato plants. Big developments with my tomato plants in the literal and proverbial sense over the weekend. And I posted a story to my Instagram page, david.pakman. Check that out. We'll take a quick break and be back after this.